Hello, so this is Michael Jackson Speaks from Heaven, book 6, and this is part 4. And we've got 30 questions, and we normally cover about 5 questions in each session. And so I'm going to look at the first question. The first question is, what is something people don't know about you? So much of my life I was covered by journalists and people writing about me and people looking into my life. So it's really hard to answer a question like that because everyone seems to know a lot about me. But what I'd like to speak about is what we covered in another question. I really took an interest in people and different sorts of people, and I looked into psychology. I looked into different people's faiths. I really spent a lot of time looking into all the major religions in the world, and I spent time talking to people that were important in each of those religions. I spent time talking to some of the leaders of the faith, and not every meeting was reported. Some world leaders and people important in their faith are private, and they didn't want press, or they didn't want people knowing about it. But I spoke to some important people because I was well bred, and I had a lot of. I'm actually looking at you this time because I was well read and I knew a lot about a faith. I'd also know a lot about a country leader or a leader of a faith. I'd know about them personally, and I invested time getting to know people and reading all sorts of information about the actual person I was going to see. And so when I had a discussion with the person, I not only knew about their faith, but I knew about the major things they'd done in their life and what was written about them. And I would have made a very good interviewer. I would have made a really good journalist interviewing people, because I spent a lot of time researching people's faiths and people in general. I was fascinated with people. You could say I was fascinated with children. I love children. I invested a lot of my time into spending time with children and getting to know children. But I also invested the same amount of time into getting to know people and world leaders and stuff. And so I knew stuff about Princess Diana that had been reported, but I knew other stuff from other sources, from people who had met her. So I spent time preparing to meet a person. So I talked to people who had actually met that person and had some private stories about the person. Once I was with this person, and there was a beggar that came up, and the person gave them $20 and invited them to lunch. And I'd hear a story about a person like that and bring that into the conversation and say, do you often, when such and such met you, they said that this happened. Does that happen often in your life? Are you often giving to beggars? Are you often buying them lunch and inviting them to lunch? And that opens up the discussion with something that they never get asked about, and something that they're happy about and they're proud about. So I interviewed and talked to a lot of people and got secondhand information on people, and brought that subject out when I was talking to them, saying such and such said this happened with you, or this was, and so I know as a performer that journalists and people in the media who interview you ask the same old questions all the time. They just repeat the same old questions, and they've got your albums and they've got your music, and they're asking about your music. But it seems when you go from reporter to reporter, you're just repeating yourself with the same questions. So if one of the reporters came in and said, "I heard that you donated your history album or your bad album, Red Jacket, to a man that approached you that was a fan, and you just took it off and gave it to him. Did that really happen?" And it's questions like that out of the blue, where someone's done some thought or some investigation into you that made the interview better, and you'd talk about that, and maybe not to camera. Some of the things are private and personal, but outside of the camera, off the air, you're able to have this good conversation and make a connection. Life is all about connections. You were saying before that it gets annoying that your father always talked about the Bible and always talked about religion. And as Matthew was editing it, it seemed disturbing for you. But if your father picked a subject that you like Michael Jackson, for instance, and was talking to you about your love for Michael and your different fascination for me, that would build connection with you, and you'd have something that you had connection over rather than the Bible. And so it's important sometimes to find out information about people, so you have like a touchstone, a thing to touch. Some people, religions have idols, and they have different things that they have on their altar, which is like a human touchstone to touch that religion, to touch that God. They have a crystal, or they have something on their altar that's a touchstone. And it's important to do that with people, to have a subject or something that really interests that person, to create that touchstone that you can build connection. And I'm really pleased that I get the opportunity to speak with you and speak frankly, because the world would be going better if we had better connections with people, if people were more connected and took an interest in each other. Matthew, talk to me about how you're such a fan, and how do you put up with people being so obsessed with you? Like, what's more? Do you prefer someone who doesn't know you just talking to you, getting to know you, or do you prefer a fan? And I said to him, both of them are different. There's certain things I can't talk to you about, Matthew, because you don't know me well, and you don't know my past, and you don't know the history. And certain things I want to talk about, that it's easier to talk to Crystal about, because she knows me and she knows about that subject. And if I mention that subject, she's right into it, because she's got that history. So I like addressing strangers, like I shared. I liked meeting people, of all sorts of people from all different walks of life. But I really love my fans, and I really love Crystal, that she's invested so much time in getting to know me and getting to know every little tidbit. And I've invested time in getting to know you, Crystal, and I've looked at your past and looked at things that you've been through, and I've been considering what you said about your father. And my father was overbearing, and And when we were children, if it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't have made it as a star, but he pushed us too much and he was overbearing. And I can't say, even though I'm in heaven and forgiveness exists in heaven, and you get your whole character reformed. Even though I am in heaven, I still have sad memories of my father and how he pushed me, and so I can certainly relate to you not having, the connection that you'd like to have with your father, even if it was just over food or clothing or something else rather than the Bible. And it's a lesson to everyone reading that no matter how full on you are with the Bible and full on with God, you've got to have certain shows that you watch on Netflix or certain other interests that you can talk to people about, and not just always be talking about the Bible. I know Matthew meets with his pastor, and he's meeting with his former pastor today. And his former pastor will always ask him, "What shows are you watching on Netflix?" It's just a way of him changing the subject and talking about something that isn't Christian and not what Matthew's doing for Jesus, but a different subject. And so it's important as a person to be a well-rounded individual, to have certain interests and certain pieces of study. And so it would be really interesting if your father come to understand how much you love Michael, and asked you questions about him, and asked you questions about me, and engaged in that, or engaged in any other thing like food or clothes or any other interests that you have. So it's important for you, a reader, to understand that life is more than what you think, and life is more complex than just your favorite subject or the thing that you're obsessed about. People, whether you know it or not, people are obsessed about other things than the things that you're obsessed about. And so it pays time for you to develop a good friendship with a person, is to take the time to take an interest in the things that they like. And there's certain things that everyone that goes to church, they've got other interests. They've got an interest in their children. They've got an interest in their husband. They've got an interest in sports. They've got an interest in politics. And it's up to you as a person to ask the questions to find out those other interests, and to speak about those other interests. And I knew certain things that the Dalai Lama was interested in, and had pursued in his own private time, and I'd done my research. So when I was with him for a couple of hours, we were talking about the things that interested him outside of his faith, and I was talking about things that I'd investigated and found out. And he was happy to talk to me for a couple of hours about things that really interest him. Like, ask him questions about, like, how is it to lead your faith? Isn't that a lot of responsibility on your shoulders? How do you feel about that responsibility? Do you ever wish that you could just step down and not be the leader and just a follower of your faith rather than leading it? How would you like to step down? What would you do if you stepped down? What other interests would you do? And questions like that and discussion like that. And that's what I had with him. And if he ever read the book, he could say and confirm that. But so my whole life was reported about me and different things. And Matthew follows a few fan pages of mine, and keeps on reading tidbits about me because he's going to continue to be talking to me. So he's interested, but he's not as full on interested in me as you are. And it really makes me happy to have the first book, Matthew's sixth book, that is the questions come from a fan, and the questions, the dialogue is going back and forth with a fan. It's interesting for fans. It's the first time that a fan has got to talk in the book. So, what have you got to say?
So I actually listened to everything you were saying. I was like concentrating. So when you were talking about your father, the relationship between your father and my father is two different things. Like he was like your father's more on the mental abusive side, and my dad is like more. Not that we don't have a bad connection or anything. It's just that I want to connect to him on more than just the Bible level. Like I said, his family has been like that his whole life. So it's the only thing he ever talks about whenever him and his family's around. So then I just kind of step back. But like I think like you might not like what I'm gonna say, but um your father caused you to like get surgery on your face and stuff because like you were starting to become insecure, like when you had your first nose job, just because of like what people thought of you, I think.
Yeah, my dad made a lot of decisions for me, but got to respect that he was thinking from a commercial aspect and thinking about my career and how I presented, and I don't hold that against him making those sort of decisions because he's in that place to make those decisions. I willingly went under the knife for that, but no, it was more. My dad wouldn't let up. He just wouldn't quit. And there was no reverse gear in my dad. They were all, four gears all going forward. There was no reverse gear. He never relaxed. He never took time and took us to a party and for us just to be kids. It was all work, 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 work. And it wasn't just work, work. It was work, 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 and it just wasn't fun. And I suppose many people have written about me saying that the reason I was so much into children is because I had my childhood stolen, and that's true in so many aspects. So much of my childhood was stolen, and that happens with a lot of Hollywood stars. When they're a child star, they grow up and they have development problems. Because they've always been in the spotlight. Um, so yeah. So anything else you want to say before we move on to the next question?
So when you're talking about your father making you like work a lot, I think he was like making you live his dream instead of the other way around.
Yeah. Well, um, I was saying it in a nice way. I was giving my father um, uh, space to not to criticize my father. There's been enough criticism of him, and yeah, I was uh, phrasing it in a polite way. He made the decisions uh, for me, and perhaps if I had a choice, I mightn't have gone that way. But he was the one in charge, and he imposed his will on me. Yeah. So um, question 17: since you claim to have watched my life on the big screen in heaven with God, what is something you told Matthew about me? This will be short, this answer, because apart from that discussion Matthew had with me yesterday, about the difference between him talking to me and you talking to me was the fact that he doesn't know hardly anything about me, and you know all this about me, so many things about me. You could just, when you learn to talk back and forth to me like Matthew can talk back and forth to me. There'll just be question after question, and as I answer, there'll be another question, and we'll just talk on to eternity. We'll just keep on having a relationship. So I didn't share anything that I've seen in your life with Matthew. That's really private. It's between you and God. It's between you and me, and God certainly wouldn't show me anything in your life that's embarrassing. Like, for instance, if you're abused in any way, your father was hitting you or abusing you in any way, I wouldn't have been shown that unless I could actually help you in that situation and help you like become like a therapist in that situation. So people's lives are shown in heaven to people that are going to actually come alongside them and mentor them and help them. So Matthew's parents have seen his past. Matthew had an addiction to prostitutes for 38 years, and his father was shown every single encounter Matthew had with a prostitute, and it lasted a few days, and his father wept and wept and wept, and come into understanding that his son was just so broken, and just trying girl after girl after girl, just trying to reach a connection with a young girl or whatever, and his father come to understand that it wasn't just this big sin that Matthew had, but there were reasons behind his life suffering so much, and continuing, like seeing every conversation with all the girls and how he's trying to make a connection with them, and his father come to understand him on a deeper level, so that how he deals with him from now on is totally changed. So things like that I know about you, things that I've seen in your life I know about you, and it'll make for a better relationship going forward when you learn to talk back and forth to me. But I haven't shared any of it with Matthew because it's private, you know. So there you go. So there's the answer to that question. Question 18, why did you criticize yourself so much? Matthew heard a quote that he covered in book number 5 that said something like, I'm not happy with anything I've ever done. That's just me. I'm a perfectionist. And because I was a perfectionist and I like things done perfect, because of that, I like Apple products because Apple are perfect. Because of that, I could mention a couple of brands. I won't mention a couple of brands, but there's certain brands that do excellence really well, and so people buy the brand, and the brand sometimes are expensive. But I was a perfectionist, and I used to have you wouldn't think so, but out of perfectionism comes insecurities, and you're insecure about certain things. And I was always concerned how people were going to respond to my music, and sometimes I'd sing a song and the audience seemed flat and they didn't seem to respond as much. And I even when the song had been a hit for 5 years and I'd performed it so many times, when the audience didn't rise up and really respond to a certain song, I'd be worried about how I sang the song and what was wrong with my performance and what had I done wrong, or what has the band done wrong, what was wrong with this. and I'm a star, and the song's a hit, and it's sold off the charts, and it got a real success behind it. But if I performed one song and the audience didn't respond properly, I'd be on myself, like making sure that I sang the next song better, and I'd be wondering what was wrong with me. Am I coming down with the flu or something? So I was very hard on myself in every single aspect. The clothes weren't just designed; they were edited and changed and made better and better. And Matthew actually saw the clothes. I think it was the Bad album. I had a red jacket.
No, that was the Beat It jacket. The Bad jacket is black.
Right. Well, Matthew doesn't remember what it was, but he actually saw the jacket that he saw me in. It was a red jacket that he saw me in
So
one.
it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So have you got anything to say about my perfectionism? Do you think did you ever see a concert of mine which wasn't as good as that you thought it could be, or have you ever heard any of my songs sung? Not on an album, you'd always see my songs sung really well because they've been mastered and produced. But did you ever see a concert or whatever that you didn't think was too good?
you put me on the spot. I'm not gonna lie, I've enjoyed every single concert from your young years to your like top tier concert. I can't say I hated anything, but like when I asked you why did you criticize yourself, I wasn't talking about like your work. I was talking about like why did you like criticize yourself about the way you look so much?
I was very self-conscious and I Matthew can't really grasp. I've got to use his intellect to speak, but I was very self-conscious, and um, it's like a dirty word to use these days to say low self-esteem, but you wouldn't think that someone who reached such stardom and levels of stardom could possibly have a low self-esteem. But I wasn't happy with the way I looked, and you've possibly heard me say that in interviews. You come up with that question because you've seen me being down on myself, and it's embarrassing to be so honest with you that my look continually went through different phases, and I was never happy with any of my looks, and I was more female than male in that respect. That so many females aren't happy with their appearance. If you ask a female if she's happy with the way she looks, it's like a loaded question. You're not going to get a good response. Um, and women can have beautiful teeth and beautiful skin and beautiful legs and beautiful shape and beautiful everything. And you can ask her, and she's not happy about some aspect of herself. And I was more of a woman like that myself, just not happy with anything. And have you ever seen? Have you seen many stars with so many different clothes? Do you see many artists have so many different uniforms, or was I a little over the top with how many dress changes I had?
Um, not over the top, but oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. But oh, so when you said that you were insecure with your looks, I was kind of surprised because everybody wants to look like you. Like if you, it's so crazy how you were so insecure with your looks, but like all the fans want to look like you, or not even the fans. Sometimes people pay top dollar to get surgery to look like you, which is pretty ridiculous. And they're still not even close to looking like you, even with the top dollar surgery they get to try to look like you. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I was. It, it's funny. The climate of heaven is just so much different. Like, when I reached stardom on Earth, everyone knew who I was. Even people that weren't really into me respected me for what I'd achieved, and even people that didn't follow my music recognized my music, and I was well known on Earth, and so many people fundamentally worshipped the ground I walked on. There were so many of my fans that just adored me. But when you reach that stage, it's hard to ascertain who's loving you for you being popular or who's loving you for who you are. And I tried my best to express myself in interviews, but people didn't really get to see the real me often, and you'd have to go to a lot of interviews to get the truth. And I was kind of shy and withdrawn in most of my interviews, and the interviewers just didn't have good questions. They had they hadn't done their research sort of questions, and but in heaven, everyone knows me, everyone cares for who I am, and I can be a lot more expressive in heaven. And people in heaven, you walk down the street, strangers can sense who you are, and they've got like a spiritual gift, like a psychic. They can sense who you are, and they can sense where you're coming from, and they can sense your spirit. And so I've got some really meaningful, really strong relationships in heaven, and uh, everyone in heaven is friendly, and you could never be a person. And I'm speaking to some of the readers here. You never be a person in heaven that's lonely and have no friends. That heaven isn't a place for lonely people. If you're private and withdrawn, that's understandable, and people won't crowd you in heaven and won't force themselves upon you. So if you're a private person and you like your own company, that's fine. But there's no loneliness in heaven. No one is lonely. No one's suffering by themselves. No one's in a place in heaven where no one understands them. Matthew's written 112 books, and there's very few people that understand him. And he read one time, authors write with one motivation: please understand me. It's like they keep on writing so people would understand them. And Matthew's only got about 4 or 5 people in the world that truly understand him. But in heaven, everyone in heaven understands him, and everyone in heaven knows him. And in heaven, you're known, and you're respected, and you're loved. And so many of my insecurities and things that I had on earth have been rounded up and fixed up in heaven. I'm very happy with the way I look, and I can look back on the different ways I looked on earth and be happy about it. And I could never say that from my standpoint on earth. And I re-recorded my songs in heaven, like I said, and I'm happy with my songs now, and I'm really happy with the songs that I record now. And Matthew was talking to me about hits that are going to come out with other artists, and he was wondering why am I going to release songs with like Illuminati based artists and stuff. And I told him it's all about the message. If I can bring out a good message about uncompromising love or unconditional love, or I can bring out a message about the right sort of breakup, like I'll always love you, I'll always think of you. You'll always be in my dreams. Sort of breakup songs and stuff. I've got so many messages that I want to bring mankind.
Sorry, I got tears in my eyes again. It's so strange because that hasn't happened in a while.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's okay. It's okay to be emotional.
I don't know where it's coming from. It's not even emotions. It's just having them nowhere.
Yeah. Well, that's just a sign of. So, do you want to speak anything into this question before we go on? Have you got any thoughts about why I criticized myself so much?
It's because the whole world is watching you.
Right.
But I, it's just like during when I watch you, like that sounds weird. Like if I like watch your interviews and stuff, like it kind of makes me sad because like people just faint when they see you. Like it's just crazy that you never thought of yourself as like somebody like that's good looking when most people don't even faint over average people.
Yeah.
And like I said, people get surgery to look like you. People wear your makeup style, your clothes. It's just it's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be hard for some people to truly understand with my level of success and my level of popularity, for me to not to have had the best feelings about myself. And but Matthew was told when he was in his addiction, he was told 100 times by God that God loved him, like Jesus said to him, like 100 times, I love you and I'm proud of you. But Matthew didn't believe it. He didn't really accept it. Because he was in this addiction, he felt so bad, and he didn't think that Jesus could possibly love him. And even though Jesus said it 100 times through 100 different people that I really love you and I'm proud of you, he didn't believe it. And sometimes things are just words and they haven't got power. And it's really what you say to yourself about yourself that's got power. And if a person doesn't believe that they're attractive and they say it to themselves, I don't like the way I look, I don't like my nose, it's got power. It's got power over whatever anyone else says. So people need to. I hope. I hope you know. I hope you know that I did my very best. If I already said in the interview that I definitely wouldn't come back to Earth and live on Earth again. But if I did come back, I hope that how I've grown in heaven, that I'd be a better ambassador on Earth. I think Earth really needs an ambassador of love. Like, um, they strung Jesus up. All Jesus did was heal people and love people, and they strung him up because he became a threat to the religious folk of the time. He was too wise, and he was contradicting what they were saying, and he was exposing them. So they got rid of him. But I just wonder if I came back to Earth in the flesh, would they kill me again? Would I be too bright a light? Because they tend to, like John.
Oh,
Yeah, keep going.
I think that ever since you left the Earth, the world has just gone mad. Like it's, I never thought about it until now. I feel like if you're still here, I mean, not saying that the world would be better because of course things happen in life, but I think that you would be like the band-aid of the world if
Yeah,
that explains if I explained it well. Like you would just like if there was something bad going on, I feel like you would just be like a distraction for that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
But people just did not like to see you try to like heal the world, like some, it's just like they just killed you because you were just um like you said, sort of like Jesus, where you were just trying to imitate him and sort of be like him in a way.
Yeah. I was too bright a light for the world to handle.
And ever since you were gone, the world has got so crazy. Like things, I don't know, the things are just never the same.
Yeah.
And I use you as sort of a distraction from like real life things. So
Yeah. Well, I'm sure many people use me as a distraction, and I'm
like
healthy.
coping mechanism.
Yeah. It's a healthy interest for some people to be able to take their mind off the world and the distract the hardships of the world.
And when I watch the concerts on YouTube, I forget about everything else. I'm just more happy. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like, I wish I was there with the fans. Like they just seem like the coolest people ever.
yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll one day you'll be able to speak to me back and forth, but one day we'll be in heaven together, and we'll have done a book together, and you'll be able to see me in person and spend time with me. Like I said, I don't drink coffee, but we could we'd be at a coffee shop, me having a milkshake or me having a cup of tea, and you having a drink and sitting face to face, talking to each other all day. I was,
um, but the crowd's energy is crazy. Like it's just so amazing to watch. Even though I was like many years ago, I wasn't even born yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The concerts were something else, and I used to enjoy putting myself into them. It's like you've got the lyrics, you got the music, and then you got the fans, and all of them play a significant role in the experience. And like I said, sometimes when the audience were flat, I wondered what was wrong with me. Why didn't that go off as powerful as I thought it would? And yeah, you probably haven't seen a concert that was like that. You probably think they were all good, but I got like sensitive ears, and I could tell the fans in Tokyo uh, responded better than to some of the songs, and when I played in England, for instance, and when I compare concerts and compare songs, I'm like a mathematician in my mind. I kept whole lot of figures and results in my mind, and the fans go wild in heaven too. They certainly like my songs in heaven too, and so I've got my own group of fans in heaven, and people that really follow my music. But things are different in heaven. There's a whole different focus, and I've got more time for people to meet people face to face in heaven. Um, so we'll go on to the next question. Uh, Question 19. Why did you decide to prophesy to me? Uh, so, uh, so we'll change that to why did I decide to talk to you? And it's because you were chosen for this. That the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of God, like God's Spirit part, um, he knew that you'd have multiple questions for me, and you'd have a good conversations with me, and he knows all about your past, and he knows all about your future, and he knows what sort of girl you are, and what sort of woman you're becoming, and so I didn't particularly choose you. I wasn't walking through heaven and seeing you and saying she's the one. But they did prepare me, and they told me about you, and then I sort of spoke to you about making your comment on YouTube. When you made your comment, I sort of inspired you to do that, and from that point on, it's been like a magic ride, and you've just been on this ride, and it's been good. And so you had a break a few days between video 3 and video 4, and you've had a refreshing time. But you were chosen because you're so interesting, and you're so much of a fan, and I can promise you, I promise you this, that in heaven, as you grow with me and learn to start to speak to me and travel with me, we'll become close friends. And in heaven, I won't be a stranger. It won't be like I'm this superstar and you never get to speak to me. We'll become friends, and you'll be able to spend time with me. And I look forward to more of your questions that you have for me, questioning me all about my life in heaven and my current life. And I want to encourage you that you can do a book of questions yourself, and you won't need to speak to Matthew. You can just hear me giving you the answers yourself, and you'll be able to go off and produce books by yourself if you choose to do that. But rather than even doing books together, just us having hours worth of conversation, and me talking about things that you want to know, and you asking questions about things about my answers. It could start with one question and then lead into a conversation that goes for hours, all about that question and the answers to the subsequent questions that you ask. So you're a fascinating person, and you research things, and you've got a mind that just doesn't stop, and you're constantly thinking about me, constantly reflecting on things about me, and I really care about you, and I care deeply about you, and I wish I could just come and grab you and bring you to heaven right now, and spend the rest of the time with you. But you've got to suffer on this earth and become. You got to become a strong individual and make your change and make your stamp. I can see you writing other books, not just interviews with me. I can see you saying different things in books and teaching people certain things. I can see you rising up and being a bit of a voice for your generation.
Well, I do write for fun, but like now that we have apps and stuff, I do write for fun. I really like go 3 or 4 books. Well, they're not really books. They're just like on the internet, and people could just do whatever they want. But like, it's fictional books.
Yeah. You've
fun.
written a couple of fictional books, have you?
Yeah, it's not physical books, like, things people can read online.
Right. Yeah, well, I can see you teaching certain principles and certain things in the future, writing like a non-fiction book. Matthew wasn't aware that you'd written fictional things, and you could probably write a full-length fictional novel, and that would touch people's lives. But all that's in the future. I could just see books in your future, you doing books beside this one.
Mm-mm. As
So
long as there's no pressure in it, then I'll do it.
yeah,
It's like I just do it on my own time, you know?
yeah. It would totally come out of you. So question 20, and we'll close with this one. Why do people use fear tactics to get people to believe in God instead of using words of love? So before I answer this, how for people reading, how have you experienced that?
Well, yeah, I could say me sometimes, but like the way I see other Christians try to convert people into believing in God, it's not very nice. Like they don't even know the person very well, and they think that, like, you know how you are supposed to judge a person by their cover.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, they'll be like, "Oh, God hates you because of X, Y, and Z." So how are you gonna get somebody to believe in God when you already told them that God hates you because of your sins? When you are supposed to believe that God forgave us for all of our sins, and that's why He died on the cross for us. So what message are you really sending? You're confusing these people.
Yeah. So
like, you're like, sorry, like the thing is, as a Christian, you're supposed to be loving the people, not sending them away from God by telling them that they hate them because of the sins they did. Like, we're not perfect either as Christians. We have done things that were not very godly. So why are you going to tell this? So why are you going to tell another person that?
Yeah. I think I think personally that so many Christians are insecure about their faith. It's like they don't really even believe their faith, and they need to convince other people to join their faith to sort of make them feel better, to make them feel that their faith is real. Like I've got evidence now because my friend became a Christian, so my Christian faith must be real because I've got someone else that signed up. It's like people with multi-level marketing signing people up, and the more they sign up, the more they feel successful. And it's Matthew has found that many Christians are just insecure about their faith, and out of that insecurity, they share their faith and try and preach it to other people. And when you become really secure in your faith, you can meet thousands of people and have conversations with thousands of people and never try and convert anyone. Matthew's had something like 20,000 encounters with people where he's done a prophecy over someone's life, and he's only led 5 of them to become a Christian out of 20,000. He never put pressure on any of them. And Matthew certainly believes that it's better that a person meets Jesus in you than trying to preach to them or trying to convert them. And it comes with an understanding, because Matthew has an understanding of angels and how angels work with people. And Matthew will walk away from a person and he's confident that that person's angel will be saying, that's an example of a really good Christian. If you're ever going to become a Christian, you should be like that person. And the angel saying you should have asked him what church does he go to, because that his church would be a good one, and you'd be able to meet him every week at church. So Matthew's very confident that the angels can take over and share the message of Christianity with the person. The person is totally unaware that it's an angel speaking to them. They just think it's their own mind thinking, He seems like a nice Christian. I wish I could be a Christian like that. If I was a Christian, I'd like to be like that. So Matthew's like the total opposite of what you're talking about. It's actually very hard. It's very hard to get Matthew in a position where he'll make a person pray to become a Christian. Like Matthew'd have to be convinced that the person was going to ring him up and was going to stay in touch with him, because there's a lot of obstacles when you become a Christian. The Christian life is very hard, and unless Matthew was convinced that the person respects him enough to keep in touch or become a Facebook friend, Matthew wouldn't even lead them to Christ, because it's such a difficult journey being a Christian that they need support. But Matthew's very rare when he shares that opinion with other Christians. They jump all over him and say that he's got to lead people to Christ, and they've got to say the sinner's prayer, and he's not really witnessing to people. But Matthew says, what's wrong with giving a person a compliment? What's wrong with making them have a happy day? What's wrong with saying something where they say, that's made my day, or that's made my week, that's the best thing that's been said to me this week? What's wrong with doing that? Why do you have to convert people? Why do you have to get people into your religion? If you're happy with your religion, why do you have to spread it on other people? Why can't people ask you questions? Why can't you leave it up to them to ask you questions about it? And I certainly had in my life, I had people ask me about my faith, but it wasn't in public. They took me aside and said, what keeps you so positive? What keeps you so happy? What faith do you believe in? And I told them Jesus was my best friend, and I try and live my life according to his principles that he laid down in the Bible. And that was enough. I didn't have to say any more. They could go and read their own Bible and find out what those principles are. So it's good that you leave something off the counter. Like, it's good that to have a Christian witness, so there's some mystery about it, instead of it all being piled on people, because it's obviously not working. Like, we got a printed Bible these days. Anyone can walk into a shop and buy a Bible. And so many people buy a Bible and read the account of Jesus and give their lives to Jesus without any Christian. They just decide that just Jesus seems really nice. I want him in my life. So there's thousands and thousands of people that become Christians from just reading the Bible. Matthew likes to think that he's been such a good example to people that people will go and seek Jesus themselves. So Matthew believes in planting seeds in people's lives and allowing that seed to germinate and grow into a tree. So that's all Matthew does. He just goes about spreading sunshine. And I've been walking with him for at least 3 years, and every time Matthew goes out into a shopping centre, I'm with him. And I'm writing songs based on the sort of person Matthew is. Matthew's like a little Jesus. He doesn't heal like Jesus, but he hasn't had that ability. He's only healed about 3 people, but he certainly is like Jesus, like knowing things about people and being able to engage people. And so the reason why Christians are so overbearing and use fear is they've been taught to do that. They've been taught to threaten people with hell, and the only way you're going to stay out of hell is if you give your life to Jesus. And meanwhile, so many people are living a hell on earth. They can't imagine hell being any worse than what they're living. And the Christians are so adamant about converting them into Christianity, but their lives aren't happy. Their lives aren't successful. Their lives aren't prosperous. Their lives haven't got anything good going for them, but they're trying to sell Christianity as something good for the people. And So there's a lot of people becoming Christians by asking happy Christians what makes you so happy, and perhaps people who want to share Jesus with people should just concentrate on living a fulfilling, happy life and demonstrating that fulfilling, happy life to other people and being a good example. Matthew's got 5 books on evangelism. He's actually written on how to share Jesus with people, but it's a different approach. And one of his best books is called Influencing Your World for Christ. And he'll put a link to that book in the book, and he'll put a link to the other 5 books in the book here too. And I'd encourage you, if you're reading this as a Christian, to read those books and change your whole approach, because Jesus was a friend of sinners. The prostitutes and the tax collectors, which were the scum of the earth, like most rejected people, the tax collectors and the prostitutes, it says publicans, but the word publican, the Jewish word publican means tax collectors, and they were like the scum of the earth. They used to sit down with Jesus and spend time with Jesus. And when Jesus wanted to let his hair down, when Jesus wanted to relax, he just went and sat with the sinners and talked to them, because they didn't ask him hard questions, and they weren't judging him, and they weren't trying to ask him questions to trip him up to prove that he was false, what the Pharisees were doing all the time. So you'd have more fun, Crystal, among Buddhists or among prostitutes or among strippers or professional dancers or artists or musicians that are drinkers and stuff. You'd have a lot more fun around them, because they wouldn't be judging you, because they've got their own sin in their own life. And so Jesus used to be a favorite among people that were sinners. And he didn't pile on them. They knew he was the answer. That's why they were so hungry to talk to him. They wanted to talk to this Jewish rabbi, because all the other Pharisees didn't like him, and he was constantly in arguments with them. And they were fascinated, saying, "Why are they arguing with you? You seem to have all the answers."
Can I interject?
Yeah.
So the way that Christians just try to, well, not really convert, like if you're already Christian, they just criticize you. Nothing ever makes them happy in the religion itself. Like if they say, like for example, like when it comes to celebrities that believe in God, they're like, which God do you believe? Like Jesus, who else? Like, are you serious? Like they always try to like dismiss that they actually are Christian or believe in God. You know what I mean? Like with Michael Jackson, they were like, well, he went to hell. And I'm like, well, he was faithful in God, so how's that possible? Like every time he was in an interview, he always talked about God too. And then they're always asking which God is you believe. You know what I'm saying? And then like they're saying that he was part of the Illuminati, or he was so devilish. And it's just not his character, you know? And it's like sad because they don't even know him as a person. Like the thing is, on YouTube, Christians love to criticize other people, and they're talking about other people's sins when you're judging as part of your sin. Like look at yourself in the mirror before you try to judge other people as a Christian.
Yeah, Jesus said,
And
"Why?"
that's wrong.
Jesus said, "Why do you try and take the speck out of someone else's eye when you got a plank in your own?" People these days.
Why can't they say they believe in God is enough? Like why is it your business what somebody else does? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they once again it comes out of their own insecurity about what they believe. So many Matthew was told that by Jesus, you can have a choice. You can ask me to save your father, and your father won't go to hell, or you can save 10,000 people in a village that haven't heard, or 1,000 people in a village that haven't heard about Jesus. Matthew said, "You can't send my father to hell." And Jesus responded, "I know the Bible better than you, and I can send your father to hell. So you choose what would you prefer? Your father go to heaven and not go to hell, or 1,000 people get saved that
Yeah.
aren't going to go? Wait a sec. And Matthew said, how long do I have? And Jesus said, as long as it takes. And 3 days later, Matthew said, I'd be the most selfish person in the world if I allowed my father to go to heaven and 1,000 people go to hell. So if it has to be this way, send my father to hell.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, I'm not going to send your father to hell, but that's how you got to feel about every single person, that you've got to lay down your life for them, and you've got to love them that much that you give up something important for them to be saved. And then a year later, he brought a teacher from overseas that corrected Matthew's father from doing a sin that would have taken him to hell. And Matthew's father was going to go to hell. It's because Matthew made that decision with Jesus, that Jesus saw fit to bring a person from another country to save his father. So there's got to be something self-sacrificial, and when you're pointing the finger, there's 4 fingers pointing back at you, and that it's a shame that we become what we're taught.
Okay. Sorry.
It's a shame that we become what we're taught, and most of the Christian behavior from Christians are taught to them by other Christians, and mixing with other Christians who are judgmental and that. Do you have to go?
No, I just hear a lot of commotion.
Right.
But yeah, it's just very annoying. Like, I always argue with other Christians back and forth on YouTube about how they're judging others, and then they just get so defensive and just start saying whatever they want without actually thinking before they speak. And they're like, see, I caught you there. And then it's funny, you know? And I'm not afraid to speak my mind. So it's annoying.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to speak my mind, because whenever we have discussions like this, they just want to silence me when the truth comes out.
Yeah.
Like you know how me and you were having a nice conversation, but if I was to talk to somebody else out besides you, they would just want to always be right, always correct. And when I say something that's totally the truth, they just want to not. They don't want me to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Or just find another argument.
Yeah. It's a sad thing Matthew come to the realization that people would prefer to risk going to hell themselves than to go to church on Sunday with hypocrites. Like, the average person out there knows the Christian message. If they don't say the prayer and they don't go to church, they're going to go to hell. But they willingly choose not to say the prayer and not to go to church, and they risk going to hell. And they pray to God every night, and they feel that they've got a good relationship with God. But when it comes to Christians, they don't want to mix with them.
Yeah, and they're like, you have to go to church. Like, you don't have to go to church. As long as you have faith in God, then that's all that matters to him. Do you think that going to church is really going to save you? No, it's your faith. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have a different opinion than me, but that's just how people are taught. You have to go to church. You have to say the perfect prayer. You have to be perfect. It's annoying. But if God sees your true heart, then that's what's going to get you to go to heaven.
Yeah, they have a verse in the Bible that they use: "Don't forsake the gathering of the brethren," and that verse actually came from the early church. When the early church used to meet 7 days a week and spend hours together each day, that verse came out where God said to them, don't forsake this, don't stop meeting 7 days a week, and don't stop being on fire. So the proper context of that verse is the Christian church have done that now. They're only meeting once a week. So they've already broken that verse in its original meaning. but they use that verse out of context now with Christians
Yeah.
to say, don't forsake the gathering of the brethren, but it actually meant the early church don't stop meeting 7 days a week. So it's interesting that we got that in the book, because if you're a person who is listening to this and you have a faith in Jesus and you believe in Jesus and you love Jesus, you just be happy spending your time away from hypocrites, because if you spend your time with hypocrites, all they're going to do is hurt you. And
And they're complaining about why don't people come to church anymore? It's because of you guys, it's not because of the church. That's the reason why people stop coming, because you guys are too busy worrying about other people.
Yeah.
That people just stop coming to church.
Yeah. There's so many Christians that need to be right, and you'll see them on posts arguing with each other, and the thread will go down like
Hilarious.
30 or 40, 50 posts, and they'll be quoting scriptures, verses at each other, and they'll be calling each other names. And at the end of it, they say, God bless you. And they think that is Jesus saying, bless your enemies. So when they say God bless you, they're actually thinking they're blessing their enemies. They're blessing your enemies is giving them a $50 movie voucher and saying, sorry, we had a fight yesterday. Here's $50 worth of tickets. I hope you enjoy the movies. That's blessing your enemy, and that'll have an impact.
Like, it's basically like what the Southerners say, bless your heart. They really don't mean it.
Yeah.
So it's just ending with that. It's funny. I really enjoy reading people's arguments back and forth, and sometimes I interject too, and then they start arguing with me. I'm like, what? I was agreeing with what the other person said. Why you guys come after me? I was literally I'm just there to observe.
Yeah. I have to agree that it doesn't put you in a popular frame of mind telling people that you're a Christian, that you're a born-again Christian, because you get all this hate and attack. So I was speaking sort of subliminal about it. It was under the cover. I never came out and said, I'm actually a born-again Christian. I've got a relationship with Jesus, because that would have copped flack from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Plus, it would have copped a lot of flack from the Christians, because they would have said, how could you have the Thriller album and be a Christian? How could you be like that? So Christians, it's sad to say, and I know a lot of Christians are reading this book, but so many Christians just point the finger, and stop pointing the finger. Just love people and accept people. If someone's been gay for 20 years, like Elton John has been gay all his life, just love the guy and put your arms around him and pray for him. Don't be telling him gay's going to take him to hell. He already knows that's what you believe, and he's happy with his life. You telling him he's going to go to hell isn't going to change him.
And also, like, they're saying, come as you are in church, but then you just take those people, like, you take the sinners out. Like, that doesn't make sense. Aren't you supposed to save these people, but you take out the sinners in the church? Like, are we supposed to be clean in church? Like, tell us, like, what are we supposed to do to get into church? We either have to be clean or unclean. We're all unclean. We're all sinners. Come on.
You're pretty amazing. It's good to talk to you. We're having a good conversation on this.
When I say that, and it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, anyone who that Matthew has met two men that were really powerful Christian men, and two of them admitted that they don't sin anymore, and it's possible to stop every thought when you're getting attracted to sin. It's possible to fight that thought and make the right decision. So it's possible to reach a stage where you're not sinning anymore. But Matthew's only in his 50 years of being in church, he's only met two people like that.
But that's why I cannot have these discussions with everybody else I know, because I know how it gets down. So I just listen.
Yeah.
I sip my tea and just listen. And if I feel like I can interject, I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only answers they give is like scripture. They don't actually explain it in detail. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Do you realize everybody doesn't speak the same language?
Yeah.
You know, make something understandable.
And there's so many different interpretations of scripture. So it doesn't even mean that the way they're using that scripture is the right interpretation of that
And
scripture.
they're always taken out of context, and that's like, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you're traveling well, and you're the one talking to me out of all of them. They wouldn't even believe that you're talking to me. Like that apparently I'm in hell because some African woman said I'm in hell. And she also says, Matthew's heard it reported that if you wear jeans and makeup, you go to hell too. So she says that too, you know. She's very religious. People make a big name of themselves, saying that they saw Buddha in hell, or they saw Michael Jackson in hell.
I saw a lot of videos about that. I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, you don't even know the guy, you're already condemning him.
Yeah,
Like, it's not even their job to condemn people where they're going. They're not Jesus.
yeah, yeah. So we've spent enough time to be an hour, but if you want to keep on talking to me, Michael, I'll end the video and we'll keep on talking, or you can choose what you want to do. What do you want to do?
I'll take a break.
Yeah. Well, Matthew's stopping the video now.